Hey, everybody. Welcome to our new live stream episode, Fact versus Fiction, Reality versus Belief. A belief is always a belief about a divine fact present and just at hand. If there were not an idea of which the apparently objective table is the appearance, let me say that again. If there were not an idea of the apparently objective table, is the appearance, you would not know what to do with what you call the table. Awareness is the idea, hence you can say table is idea. There is no awareness in belief. The variety and conscious infinitude of mind, it's tree-ness, snow-ness, chair-ness, flower-ness. Human belief conveniently names trees, snow, chair, and flower. They exist as ideas of mind, apparent only as mind, capital M, and infinitely manifested as the consciousness called man. These elements of mind coordinate and are reciprocal in nature. The only truth about this thought force called matter or material sense is that a divine reality exists, making possible the misstatement. That's why Mrs. Eddy said sin existed as a false claim before the human concept. Silencing your human self, alias rising above corporeal personality, is what reforms the sinner and destroys sin. And that's all from Margaret Laird's pamphlet, Practice Not Profession. So welcome, Betty. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent. Do you want to add anything to that and about this topic?
Well, I probably could say, but no.
You probably could say, but no. All right. Let's see. All right. So let's just dive in. So on page 41 in her booklet, Practice Not Profession, on page 41, the admission of belief or fiction as factual is the self-love which is more opaque than a solid body. You want to unpack that a little bit, Mom?
Well, there's a note there. You can read that.
This so completely hides the reality that the unreal is called the real.
Yeah.
So we'll basically try what we're looking at. Is that it?
Well, the admission of belief as factual is the self-love, which is more opaque than solid body. You know, when you're talking to yourself, as it were, and you believe something about the image called Betty, Kim, or Mary Smith, or whatever, when you have beliefs about what's actually living, moving, and having being, which is the reflected presence of the God idea, man, when you have beliefs about that and you are hung up with the physical look of yourself, problems proliferate. They're just everywhere. The thing that science has given us is the vision to see that what it looks like is not what it is. And what it is not what it looks like. But having said that, the presence of something means reality is present. The look of it is a view individually that you have. And you have to look through that view, recognizing that what it tells you, and the only thing it tells you, is something real is present. And when something real is present, that's the God idea in action called man.
Yeah. So when I'm looking out and all the stuff going on in my life, as soon as I assign cause out in that picture somewhere, I'm off track. I've lost my way. I've done exactly this. So the admission of belief, fiction as factual, is the self-love which is more opaque than a solid body.
That's right.
That's what I'm doing. So when I look out in the world and I go, well, if blah, 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 and this hadn't happened and that, and I need to change this and I got to go fix that. If I'm thinking that that's talking about causation and what's real, capital R, I am living in a world of fiction, which you're saying is fraught with issues, problems, and everything else, because I'm not clear about fact.
You're not clear about who you are.
Right. That's what I'm saying
about what's going on.
Yep. And just the mere acknowledgement of one thing going on, as consciousness creating, as perfection functioning, whatever that is, just that acknowledgement can shift it.
That's right. Because the acknowledgement of the God idea in any form you want to use is God self-acknowledging.
Right.
Because the two-legged animal looks like saying something, has no capacity to understand.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of it reminds me of John F. Kennedy when he put a man on the moon. And he said, we're going to put a man on the moon in 10 years.
Yep.
And it's like what he did was create this context, if you will, called a man on the moon in 10 years.
Yep.
And then you had all the people that say it can't be done and this and that. And you had all the obstacles and the issues and the whatevers. And yet all of that occurred inside the happening called man on the moon in 10 years, if you will.
Yep.
It's almost like we have life always showing up. And then we derail ourselves by assigning value to a certain something, something, or cause to a certain something, something. And we get all caught up in that. And we lose sight of the vision of reality, capital R, shaping our ends.
Yeah. And the thing that to me is significant in that particular example is that he didn't ever back off of man on the moon in 10 years.
Yep.
If you hold your vision, all kinds of stuff can show up in the picture. Right. But you stay with your vision and say, that's the way it looks, and on you go.
Yep.
You don't have to do anything about all the stuff showing up. You just have to stay with the vision. There's one thing going on.
Right. And in that story, it just showed up all the things that needed to get resolved. And it was all perfection showing up the best way it could for that accomplishment to be realized. And I would say what we're saying is have science for your vision and stick with the facts present and allow the world to be show up however it does, knowing that it's the best view you've got and the self-discovering that you're going through, that you're evolving.
Yeah, but more importantly, what you're doing is allowing it to look any old way that has to show up, but you're saying with the vision that all is infinite mind.
Yes.
Which is perfection present.
Right.
And it looks like la, 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 all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But you don't get lost in the stuff. You just leave it alone. And you stay with all is infinite mind. Yep. And on you go.
Right. And that's the distinction between fact versus fiction.
That's right.
Reality versus belief.
That's right.
Because it's so right in front of us to want to believe a lot of what we're seeing.
Yeah, but belief does nothing.
I know, but we don't. But when we're caught up in the belief about that, we are not thinking it does nothing.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. It's that thing where we've got that going on. We're ascribing source. We're ascribing source to something that isn't.
Yeah, and the fact is that when you stay with the fact, all is infinite mind, or mind is the source and condition of all existence, or any fact that you have.
Right.
Stay with it. Oh, it looks like that. Okay, but what's going on is this fact, and something else shows up. Yep, on we go, and you stay with the fact. You allow it to be. You don't fight with the picture. You leave it alone.
Yes. All right. So moving on to Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on page 427, line 18 said, error is a belief without understanding.
Yep.
So when I believe something I'm seeing to be true, and I don't have science as my understanding, I'm walking down a primrose path of fiction.
You're living a fictitious about fiction about yourself.
Yeah.
That soon shows up to be what you call big problem.
Right. Right.
Wake up call.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. And on mine, in Mind is the Athlete on page 36, you wrote, existent within all of us is the possibility of choice and control in everyday living.
Yep.
And that choice, correct me if I'm not accurate here, but that choice is the choosing of what I'm acknowledging as source.
It's knowing who you are.
Exactly.
Yes.
Same difference, right? Knowing who I am and acknowledging source.
That's right.
Okay. So living with science as my vision, is the possibility of choice and control in all things, every moment, moment by moment by moment by moment.
Yep. And the acknowledgement of facts rules the day.
Yeah.
When you stay with it.
Right. And I can see where this is where I don't get hoodwinked or I don't get all absorbed into whatever shows up and appears and this and that whipsaws things up and down and this way and that way because, oh my God, this is great. And oh my God, that's horrible. And because when I stick with the possibility of what's really so, and acknowledgement and living in that understanding, well, now I've got choice and control in my daily living.
And actually those words choice are misleading because man is not a chooser of anything.
Right.
Man is the being of being.
Right.
And so what's happening is when you can acknowledge the fact, the spiritual fact of whatever is present as your experience of living.
Right.
The seeming that you're looking at becomes the being that you are.
Right. And the being that you are. So then it's not like A or B, choose. It's more like A, choose. Be the source of A.
That's right.
And be satisfied with A.
Well, don't pick and choose on being satisfied. Be willing.
Okay, be willing. I like that. Be willing. Cool. Yeah. So be willing. And so it's never a this or that. It's a life comes at you this. It's A.
There one thing going on. There isn't this or that.
Right, exactly. We like to play the game of, well, should I this or should I that? And that's like, who cares?
Yeah, what difference does it make?
Right, pick and go, right? Okay.
It's all belief stuff.
Right, exactly. Okay. As human beings, we think we choose what we wear, what we eat, our associates and friends, our jobs, and even our opinions and judgments. This is rarely the case.
Yep.
You show up in your world exactly what is needed for your own self-discovering. All right.
Yep.
So on Practice Not Profession online on page 40, Margaret Laird wrote, science, pure inspiration, reveals what the awareness is. Okay. And then mentally rummaging in beliefs about daily activities avails nothing. Presence is the conscious acknowledgement of spiritual facts. Distinguishing reality always clears the air. And what that looks like for me is freedom, peace.
Well, maybe so, maybe not. But whatever it looks like makes no difference because the look is not what's going on.
Uh-huh.
If you use it like a recipe to have the look smooth itself out so you can relax, forget it.
Right.
That isn't what it's about at all.
Right.
is that whatever it looks like, you leave it alone. You don't fall into, oh dear, it always ends that way. I knew it wasn't going to work. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do now?
Right.
You know,
Yep.
it's like, leave it alone. Whatever it looks like, whatever the upset is, whatever the disturbance appears to be, that's the way it looks right now. Be my guest.
Right.
What's actually present, looking just like that, is one mind, the only way I'm willing to see it right now, and right now, and right now. And as I acknowledge the fact of perfection present, I can relax and let go of my attachment to what I thought it ought to look like.
Right.
And when I let go of my attachment to the picture, reality is the only presence evident.
Right. Right. All right. I'm going to take a second here before we go through our final, set of quotes and whatnot, to just acknowledge that we have a program called a book study, and it's led by Ron Wallace, and it's phenomenal. So the current one's coming to an end, but the next one is going to be really cool, because the next one is going to actually play one of Margaret's seminars, New York, 1965, and you'll take your notes and then you'll discuss. And in every session, you get to dive deep and participate. I think there's like 10 people on the whole thing, and you get to talk about it and discuss it. It's on Thursday nights or Thursday afternoons. Sorry, it's not Thursday nights, Thursday afternoons. And so it's starting on, I believe, February 15th. So if you're interested in that, just go up to scientificmetaphysics.org, look at our programs. It's going to be posted there shortly so that you can register in it if this sounds good for you. But it's really going to be great. So that's one thing that if you want to take your study of science to a whole nother level, then sign up and be present in that exploration, because it really is altering. And the second thing that I want to say is Betty and I, are going to be doing a live cast. And that live cast is going to be held on March 16th and 17th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. It's only in the morning from 8:30 to 10:30, 2 hours each day, easy to attend. We're working it all out. We're working it all out right now. We're going to talk more about it. But if that sounds intriguing, look at getting in on this and being in a full discussion, really exploring some stuff, having some things to look at. It's going to be 4 of the most valuable hours you'll spend. And that's coming on March 16th and 17th from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning Pacific time. So yep. And it'll be done on Zoom. So that's not up yet. You can't register in it yet, but you sure can mark your calendar and then tune back in, because when that's all ready to go, I'm going to let y'all know. And there is an early bird price, and then there's a regular price. But anyway, get into that, because I don't know how many more of these we're going to do, Betty and I, but this is going to be a really unique opportunity for you to really participate directly and in the discussion and all of that. So that's going to be those 2 days. So those are the things that I wanted to bring up and talk about in terms of what's happening and what you could participate further in. And then finally, we are a nonprofit organization. So everything we do is member supported, not member supported, but donations and things like that. That's how we fund all of our activities. So it makes a big difference, your support. So if you love what you're seeing here, we have 153 of these sessions and these episodes out here on YouTube in our channel. 153. This is 154. That means that you could listen to one every week, and it would take you 3 years before you'd have to repeat. So we love doing these. Betty's a master. It's like you're getting it right from the source here. But if you want to support that, you could donate as little as $10 makes a difference. So I'm just going to say, go out to scientificmetaphysics.org/donate and give us a contribution. It helps make things possible and support the work of the Institute of Metaphysical Science so that we can do things like this, so we can bring you these programs. All right. So now that that's over, is there anything else you want to say about any of that, Betty?
No.
Okay, good. So let's continue. All right. So in Practice Not Profession, on page 41, Margaret Laird wrote, "Where is the mind that can believe a lie? Where is the mind that can believe a lie? If we have what is called harmony, we may be sure we have
Harmony.
if we have what is called inharmony, like I said, if we have what is called inharmony, we may be sure we have identified ourselves as a believer in the human sense of harmony." That would be like two ends of the spectrum, right? You've got harmony and inharmony. You're at two ends of the paradox world. You got to have one to have the other, instead of being right at the 0 point, which could have just as much one as the other. So by either name, it's an imposter.
Yep.
Anything else about that? Where is the mind that can believe a lie? It doesn't exist.
That's right. And the believer and the belief are one. You let go of the idea that who you are is a thing that can believe or not believe. You haven't gotten hold of who you are at all. You see yourself as the picture in the mirror. See yourself as a two-legged animal.
Right.
You see man as the expression of God's being. You let go of the view called Betty or Kim and just allow that to be. That's a view, a point of view. Is reality the full expression of the God idea?
Yeah. Yep.
That's who you are. That's the fact. And the reality of that fact will, what do I want to call that? Be evident in all of your living. You'll find that things that could look like a problem resolve themselves before they even show up. You'll find that what you need is right at hand.
Right.
Yep.
Very good. And in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy on page 574, starting on line 27, wrote, "The very circumstance which your suffering sense deems wrathful and afflictive, love, capital L, can make an angel entertained unawares."
Exactly. And it is always love that meets the need.
Right.
It may look like 1,000 different views, but the reality present that meets the need of no need, because there's no one out there. There's one thing going on, all infinite mind. So it shows up in a language understandable to the individual.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. And then in Mind is the Athlete, your book, on page 39, you wrote, "Our self beyond the ego image manifests as successive views reflective of a reality not fully seen."
Yes, and that self is with a capital S. I'm not talking about the two-legged animal. I'm talking about the divine presence that you identify in your view as if it were a two-legged animal.
Right. Yeah.
So
And that self beyond the ego image, which would be the two-legged animal, manifests as successive views reflective of a reality not fully seen. You only see your view, not reality.
But even when I see reality, I'm looking in a limited scope.
Right.
Most of the time, I don't have to be, but most of the time we are.
Right.
So we tend to think that we're healed or helped or solution found. What's actually true is that the ground of being is perfection. And you step into it at any point and you have perfection present.
Right. Right. Yep. And the acknowledgement of this has the frailties of being human dissolved into strength and purpose.
Yep.
Because you're giving up the sense of human being, the sense of a two-legged animal, and you're standing in the vision, science as your vision.
Yeah. And it isn't that you're giving it up, you're allowing it to be.
Yeah.
Margaret used to say a lot of things like, I don't know why it looks this way, but on we go.
Right.
So you don't get hung up with the look. You
Right.
recognize that it looks this way because perfection is present. And this is my current view.
Right.
So I'm going to rest with the perfection that has all well.
Right. Yep. All right. And if anyone has any questions, the thing that I forgot to say earlier on is put them in the comments. Put your questions in the comments. We will answer those questions, whether we're live or whether they come in after the fact. But put your questions in. If you have any questions, go ahead and do that now. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe. It helps us spread the word. If you give us a like or a thumbs up, also helps spread the word and helps us expand our reach. So I'd appreciate any of those things. And we will be back next week at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central with our next episode. So in the meantime, we have 154 episodes you could go and start watching out on the YouTube channel. So you can go to scientificmetaphysics.org/YouTube. It'll take you right to the channel. All right. There being no comments that I'm seeing come in, we're going to end this call right here and we'll see you next week. Until then, live in fact, not fiction. Be present to reality and distinguish your belief and let it be. All right. Between now and then, do those things. And we shall see you then. All right. Till next.
Thanks, Kim.